Hello and welcome to today's Office Hours presentation. This is your host, Paul Hoyt. Our Office Hours presentation are a relaxed, informal mentoring program that we hold every Monday at noon Pacific time. All these recordings, slides, and exercises are archived in our members area. And for now, all of the recordings are available on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/user/Paul Hoyt. The reasons we do this is because we know that being a successful small business owner can be a great experience, but we also know that it's tough. You need education, training, tools, and teams to be successful, and we want you to get to know us, because when you get to know us, you'll know that first and most importantly, we care about you. We want you to be successful in every area of life, whatever that means to you. We want you to find the greatness, the happiness, the divinity within yourself, and then remember it, embrace it, and live it every single day. Our passion is to increase the survival rate, accelerate the growth rate, and reduce the struggle rates of businesses in America. And our vision is to help millions of CEOs and entrepreneurs accelerate their business growth and enjoy greater harmony and balance in their lives. If you find these office hours presentations to be beneficial to you, please pass the word. People right now can sign up and attend them for free and have access, to our entire library just by signing up or by looking at it on YouTube. That may not always be the case. So if you have a friend who's a business owner or who wants to be a business owner, please pass the word so we can get as many people on the calls as we possibly can. Our office hours agenda is usually an in-depth discussion of a business success principle. We offer some closing remarks, special offers for products and services, and an invitation for next week's session. And then we go into open Q&A and coaching. And as a reminder, the best question or comment wins a prize. So as you're going through the presentation today, grab a pencil and a piece of paper, write down your questions, type them into the chat log, and we'll address them at the end of the call. And again, the best question or the best comment, as decided by your panel of judges, Stephanie and myself, will win a prize. We also invite you to join us in the Awakened CEO communities on both LinkedIn and Facebook, where we put a business success principle of the day up on both Facebook and LinkedIn about 4 days a week. And we do an energy of the day posting on Facebook. And last week, on August the 17th, which was Wednesday, I believe, we celebrated 1,000 days in a row of doing my energy of the day posting on Facebook. I encourage everybody to have a discipline, something that they do every single day that helps them feel healthier and happier, and that somehow helps other people feel healthy and happier too, because it is a wonderful, wonderful way to start your morning. Today's topic is on Make Even More Money, the Art of Profitability 2. Last week we did the Art of Profitability 1. And this week we're going to talk about more profit models. I'll share a little bit more about that with you in a second. As always, we try to relate the subject matter of the day to one of the key performance areas of success. And this one is clearly in the area of leadership. One of the responsibilities that you have as CEO and as an entrepreneur, as the leader of your organization, is to create an effective business model, something that allows you to be profitable, sustainable, and scalable. And as it turns out, when you do the business model, it impacts a lot of different areas at your business. It impacts the way that you sell things, the way that you develop products, and the way that you develop and implement your marketing strategy. So your business model is pervasive around all different areas of business. We also like to relate the subject matter of the day to one or more of the levels of performance, the mindset, the methods, or the momentum. And we try to relate it to one or more of the focus areas of business, which is business growth, personal growth, and professional growth. When you take the three focus areas and when you take the three levels of performance and integrate them, you come up with the Awakened CEO system. And the Awakened CEO system is a 9-category system where we specify or we encourage people to be excellent in all 9 of these areas, all 9 of these nonets, as we call them. And today's conversation is going to involve 6 of the 9. We're going to talk about mindset in both business growth and professional growth, talk about methods in both business growth and professional growth, and momentum in both business growth and professional growth. Today's agenda Yeah, we're going to talk about, of course, the Art of Profitability, just a word on the author, talk about the book itself, and look at some profit models, and then sum it all up to the bottom lines. As we talked about last week, Adrian Slywotzy got his Harvard undergrad, MBA, and his JD from Harvard. He's been voted one of the top 25 consultants in 2000 and 2008, wrote The Art of Profitability in 2003, and he's been the author of several other books. Last week, we talked about 6 different profit models. And if you didn't tune in live or you haven't watched the recording, we certainly encourage you to do so. We talked about switchboard or connector profit, where you make money by connecting buyer and seller and by taking a piece of the transaction. We talked about pyramid profit, which I renamed product funnel profit, which allows you to have different product levels where you have a $100 product, a $500 product, and a $1,000 product, and move people up through the product funnel until they reach their maximum level of engagement with you. Specialist profit, where you become known as somebody who is really, really good at something, and that allows you to reduce your marketing expenses because you have kind of builds your brand awareness through public relations and through word of mouth in a way that you cannot buy through advertising, and it really cuts down on your marketing expenses. Point of sale profit says that we make more money by at the point of sale, at when somebody's actually purchasing something, to encourage them to buy something else. We upsell them into more quantities of the product they were already purchasing, or we cross-sell them into buying a complementary product. So if somebody's buying a shirt, we invite them to buy the tie. If somebody's buying, a package of things, we invite them to buy 2 or 3 or 4 and achieve some sort of a volume purchase discount associated with that. And we talked about multi-component value pricing profit, which says that we charge something based upon the capability of the person who is consuming its ability to pay for us. So we will charge more for a particular product or service to a large company than we will a small company. And the last one we talked about last week was profit multiplier or asset profit, where you take a core competency or specific pieces of content and leverage that in a whole bunch of different ways in order to gain value from that asset. So Mr. Slywotzy in his book defined 23 different profit models. We talked about 6 of those last week, and I defined another 20 or so because when I saw what he was doing, I realized that he had left a whole bunch of stuff out, and a whole bunch of things have changed from 2003 to 2016. So I add a lot more business model design elements that you can choose from. And today we're going to talk about 10 of those. We're going to talk about some leadership profit strategies, and we're going to talk about some marketing profit strategies. First, 4 different leadership profit strategies. We're going to talk about entrepreneurial profit, experience curve profit, passionate vision profit, and planning profit. Notice that passionate vision profit and planning profit have asterisks beside them. That's because you're not going to find them in the book. Those are ones that I defined after reading his book and really understanding his book and seeing that he certainly didn't cover all of the different possible business model design elements or ways in which I have seen my clients make money. So I defined actually 20 more, and here's 2 of them, and we're going to talk about those today. First of all, let's talk about entrepreneurial profit, which is also known as bootstrap profit. With entrepreneurial profit, we keep the entrepreneurial spirit alive. We focus on frugality and focus on innovation and keep people's focus on the bottom line. We never, ever act like a big company, and we instill a constant sense of urgency to continually increase profitability. So this takes the passion of the entrepreneur, and believe me, it takes a lot of joyful passion in order to effectively implement entrepreneurial profit and bootstrap profit at your business. Because if you don't put some joyfulness with it, if you don't make this a game that people can enjoy and understand and reap the rewards of in some way, that they're going to start wondering, how come they're not getting paid more because we're making all of this money. But if you put a lot of joyful energy into it, a lot of positive energy, and make it a game in some way, you can keep the entrepreneurial profit going for a long, long time. One of the big examples of that is Walmart. So I was around at the early days of Walmart. Yes, indeed. I know I don't look it, but I am that old. So back in the 50s and 60s, Walmart was just getting started in Oklahoma and in Arkansas and in Missouri and in Kansas. That's where it kind of got started. The headquarters for Walmart are in Bentonville, Arkansas. So we saw it start to come. And in those early days of Walmart, they were known for their bootstrap efficiency. In fact, today, that's the way they make money, right? Everyday low prices. They eliminate the middleman. They keep it, they provide decent quality products at very fair products and that very fair prices. And that's the way that they've been able to grow over time. Sam Walton was famous for driving around in a 20-year-old pickup truck. That's the way that he's kept sending the messages to his people that we need to keep our eye on the ball. We need to keep our nose on the grindstone. We need to keep operating extremely efficiency. And that was their mantra, and that was his mindset, and that was one of the many ways in which he communicated that, not only through his words, but through the way that he dressed and his actions and the pickup truck that he drove. He maintained that for a long time, and as a result, Walmart, was able to take all of the profits that they were getting and drive that into rapid expansion. They were able to leverage all of the profits from the company and really squeeze a lot of money out of the supply chain in order to grow very, very rapidly. And of course, today they are one of the world's largest retailers, if not the world's largest retailer. The second way of getting profit from a leadership model that we're going to talk about today is the experience curve profit, which is another way of talking about continuous process improvement. With continuous process improvement and experience curve profit, we constantly refine our processes to squeeze extra profits from the model itself. We are continuously reducing the cost of customer acquisition, of manufacturing, and of delivery over time. Some examples of that: Japanese automobiles. Again, in the 1950s and in the 1960s, when Japan was recovering from World War II, Japanese products were kind of known as being cheap. And we didn't think of Japanese products as something that we would actually buy except for a trinket or a toy or something like that. In fact, we would turn over products that we had purchased, and if it said made in Japan, it was kind of a running joke in the late 50s and in the early 60s about, this is a cheap product and it has poor quality. But over time, they'd made the successful transition from being known as being cheap and poor quality into something as being inexpensive and extremely high quality. One of the first examples of that was the Honda automobile. When Honda came out, they'd had Honda engines for a while and Honda motorcycles for a while, but then they came out with a Honda Accord, which was a big success in the 1970s. And I remember vividly when in 1970 the first Honda dealership opened in our town, and everybody kind of chuckled at it for a while, and then it became known what a quality vehicle the Honda Accord was, and then we started seeing quality in all kinds of Japanese products like Sony. And then we saw them it was Datsun at the time, but now it's been renamed Nissan, 30 years ago or so. The way that they did that was through continuous process improvement. They became known for putting quality into their products, not necessarily squeezing the cost out of it, but putting quality into the product by taking the suggestions from all of the people wherever they were and honoring those suggestions and making a little bit of improvement every week or every month or with each model change. Edwards Deming Jr., I believe it was the person who was best known for having gone to Japan and teaching them continuous process improvement. Well, you can do the same thing at your business. You can make a little improvement to the way that you sell, a little improvement to the way that you deliver and reduce your cost of goods sold, a little improvement to your internal operations and reduce expenses out of that, a little improvement in the way that you market your products and services, a little improvement in the way that you act as a leader and can increase the loyalty and the effectiveness of your people. And over time, that experience that you have with your business model, continually improving it over time, will result in more profits for your company. The third leadership profit model, another example, again, is Walmart. We talked about Walmart and already talked about how they really squeezed cost out of their system by continuing to be better and better at what they did. By the way, they were one of the first very large companies to have what they call a data warehouse. In the late 1980s and the early 1990s, one of the things that they did was invest heavily in computer systems in order to squeeze more and more cost out of the system. They knew what was going to sell on their shelves better than any other company ever knew. They knew exactly what kind of return on investment they were getting, so they could know exactly what to charge for the products that they were selling and exactly how much to pay for the products that they were selling. And oh, by the way, they became one of the first companies that essentially operated on consignment and operated on other people's money. That meant that when in those days, and I don't know if it's still true or not, but I suspect that it is, if you're selling your products through Walmart, they essentially don't pay you until they already received the money from selling your stuff. They are so efficient. Is that you ship it to them, they get it on the shelves, they sell it, they collect the money, and then they pay you on the other end. So they're not only operating in a way that causes them to make a lot of profit, they're also operating in a way that causes them to work on your cash flow and on the customer's cash flow. So they have really done an exceptional good job of continually improving their model over time and leveraging the experience they have with merchandising and in retailing in order to make a tremendous amount of money at that company. Next one I want to talk about is passionate vision profit. And again, this has an asterisk by it because this is one that I created, what he didn't define in his original book. Passionate business profit simply says that we're going to maintain our passionate vision for the company and we're going to communicate it clearly and loudly. We're going to focus on our values, our purpose, our mission, our calling, our legacy that we want to leave behind, the long-term objectives of the business, and we're going to do this at every internal meeting and every external communication that we have. We're going to keep our entire team fired up and proud to be a member of our team because of the difference that we're making in the world today, because of the value that we're bringing to other people. And we're going to keep that positive energy flowing. That positive energy that we have within the company is going to keep their eyes on the prize and going to keep their productivity up and their energy up and the teamwork up and the loyalty up and the morale up so that we can make more money over time just by becoming a company with a passionate vision and a lot of positive energy towards that. Some examples of that are nonprofits. There are nonprofits out there that do an exceptionally good job of continually focusing on the people that they serve in order to keep those donations coming in and in order to keep the people who are working at those nonprofits just happy, even though they're probably being paid less than they could be paid if they were working for a for-profit enterprise. That's one of the things that nonprofits do, of course, is they typically don't pay as well as nonprofits. They certainly don't have all the commission plans and the accelerators in those commission plans that for-profit enterprises do, one of the ways that they leverage the donations that they have is by having very lean operations and squeezing a lot of the fat out of their operational model. And they do a very, very good job of beating the drum, of keeping people reminded of why we are doing this day after day after day, the people that we are helping, the people that we are serving, and I certainly admire them and respect them for that. Google, on the other hand, which is an extremely large company, also does a really good job of maintaining their passionate vision. Their passionate vision, well, first of all, I believe their mission statement is do no evil. You know, so right away they wanted to establish themselves as a company that did not oppress other people. And their mission statement is something like, and I don't think I know this exactly, but it's to organize the world's information and make it readily accessible. And that has become their mantra and their passionate vision. People who work for Google are inspired to work for a company that is making such an incredible difference in the world. And they do, and they have made an incredible difference in the world. I can't imagine the world before the internet today. I can remember it, but it's hard for me to imagine what it was like when I was in high school or college, going to the library and looking things up in the card catalog. Today, the world's information is available at our fingertips, and Google was probably the single company that made that happen more than any other company on the planet. And they maintained that passionate vision, inspired everybody that worked there to where they became one of the top, if not the top place to work, certainly in Silicon Valley and maybe on the entire planet. And it's because of that vision, that dream that they had of taking all of the information in the world and making that readily and easily acceptable to everyone. Planning profit is the last of the leadership strategies that we're going to talk about. And again, it has an asterisk because I've made this one up. Planning profit is about analyzing and organizing everything so that you eliminate missteps, missed tasks, blown assignments, and miscommunications, and you reduce expediting fees, you reduce delays, you have a lot more accurate proposals. And one of the ways that we do that is that we debrief after every meeting. So in addition to creating great plans so that everybody knows exactly what their job is and that we are coordinating everybody together so that we are in alignment with each other and we're all rowing the canoe in the same direction and pulling on the rope at the same time in the same direction. We also then debrief after every single meeting so that we can improve our plans over time. Here's some examples for you. Stadium construction. I live in Santa Clara, California. It's been my pleasure over the last 3 or 4 years to watch the construction of Levi's Stadium, where the San Francisco 49ers play football these days and where there's a lot of concerts. That happened just a mile north of my house. And it was my privilege to walk around that stadium every day. Well, one of the things that they did was create great plans. I mean, you don't have a billion-dollar construction project without having some really great project managers and some really great plans. It was really interesting to see the steel being brought in by the truckload and being positioned in the yard, in the laydown yard, and then having it always available when it came time to put that girder up on the stadium itself. And I just could imagine those project managers and project coordinators and manufacturing or construction supervisors rather, seeing all that coordination, that alignment. They squeezed profit out of that. They squeezed costs out of it and built profit into it by effectiveness in project management. It has been really great to watch that. Early in my career, I spent 20 years in manufacturing. And one of the things that we did in manufacturing was implement ERP systems. Enterprise resource planning systems were designed to make the entire company much more effective by taking a master production schedule, by blowing that through a bill of material so that we would know exactly what parts to manufacture and what raw materials and components to purchase so that it was there at exactly the right time to be used in the manufacturing process, and really cut down on the amount of inventories that we had, the amount of expediting fees that we would have, the amount of work in process that we would have, and it was allowing us to promise to our customers when that material, when those products were going to be available, and made a tremendous amount more profit. ERP systems began to be fairly well implemented in the 80s, and now they're just a de facto system, is that almost every manufacturing company has some level of enterprise resource planning system in place to allow them to reduce the costs in manufacturing parts, reduce the inventory, reduce the expediting charges, and provide better customer service at the same time. So those are the 4 leadership profit strategies that we wanted to talk about today: entrepreneurial profit, experience curve profit, passion vision profit, and planning profit. And now we're going to talk about 6 different marketing strategies or marketing profit strategies. First, we're going to talk about time profit, then installed base profit, DeFacto standard profit, premium brand profit, specialty profit, and community profit. Let's jump in and talk about time profit. Time profit is also known as first mover advantage. It means that we are the first person to market. We have a significant competitive advantage, and the mantra is that we're going to go first, we're going to go quick, and we're going to go as big as possible. Once we have that first mover advantage, we're going to carve out as much territory as we possibly can before the competition has time to respond to us, and we can increase a dominant market share position. It almost always involves operating in stealth mode, at least for a little bit, while we are raising capital, while we are getting ready to explode. It usually involves raising a lot of capital early on in the game so that we have the funding necessary in order to take advantage of that first mover advantage. And it does require a lot of capital to execute, much more than just a slow organic growth model. Some examples of that are Apple, iPod, and the iPhone. So Apple, God bless them, in about, what was it, 2007, 2008, maybe a little earlier than that, they came out with the iPod. In fact, I know it was earlier than that. It was probably 2005, maybe even 2004. And they really had a tremendous idea, and they were able to leverage it very quickly. And by the way, it wasn't just the iPod. It was the combination of iPod and iTunes, where they would take 30% of all of the downloads, 30% of the revenue from all of the downloads that were accomplished on the iTunes. And oh, by the way, when the smartphones came out a few years later, that became a way of delivering apps to the smartphone. They had the first mover advantage, and they really took advantage of that. They went first, they went as big as they possibly could. They spent an incredible amount of money on marketing, and they established a dominant market position in the portable music marketplace with the iPod, and then in the smartphone marketplace with the iPhone. Other people have caught up. I know now that the Android operating system in all of its different hardware platforms now outsells the iPhone, but Apple is still, at this point in time, I think the most valuable company in the world in terms of the asset value of the company. And the reason why is because they struck gold in the marketplace with the iPod and with the iPhone in the 2000s, and then they leveraged that and took advantage of their first mover advantage. Another way from a marketing strategy to make money in your business is installed base profit. And with installed base profit, we realize the value of a customer base. In fact, we might even give away our initial products in order to make money over a long customer relationship. Here's some examples of that. Software licenses are a really good example of that. Software companies are valued a lot more than hardware companies are, because there's a lot more margin in delivering software than there is in delivering hardware. And software companies learned a long time ago to charge a fair amount for the initial software, but really make a lot of their money from the installed base over time. QuickBooks is a really good example of that. They have become the de facto standard. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in a minute, in the online or in the desktop small business accounting system marketplace. And they know that every 3 years they stop supporting a previous release. So it's 2016 right now. They've stopped supporting 2013. You have to be on QuickBooks 2014, 15, or 16 in order to get support from them. So every 3 years they get all of their customers to repurchase their software. And it is a beautiful, beautiful way of gaining a lot of revenue from the installed base. Oracle, SAP, some of the other larger software companies that I've had a chance to work with and work for make some of their money when it comes to selling the initial licenses, but they make a lot of money on those annual support and maintenance fees that allow people to get the releases, the new releases of their software with the bug fixes and the new features, and allow people to call in and get support in terms of fixing bugs in the product or support in terms of answering questions. They can make a tremendous amount of money out of their installed base, and frankly that's why software companies are some of the darlings of Wall Street, because there's so much money in that and because they get so much money out of the installed base. Razor blades and razors are another great example of that. The old adage used to be that we'll give away the razor in order to sell the razor blades. In that same vein, we give away our printers in order to sell our ink cartridges. You know, it's amazing to me that you can go buy a really wonderful printer, a printer copier scanner combination on the marketplace, you know, for $100 or $120 or $150. The reason is because they make so much money on the cartridges. They make so much money out of their installed base over time. They might, you know, the cartridges might carry a 60, 70, even 80% margin to them, where the printers themselves may only be a break even or carry a 10 or a 20% margin. And for all of the ladies in the audience today, Barbie dolls and outfits. You know, it used to be the joke that they would give away the Barbie doll practically. You know, Barbie doll would only cost like $2.50 or $5 or something, but the outfits that they would sell would cost a tremendous amount, and they made most of their money through selling Barbie doll outfits. In the same way that printer companies made their money through cartridges, in the same way that Schick and Remington, you know, make their money from selling the razor blades themselves. So be thinking of to yourself, you know, how can you make money out of your installed base by having a lifetime relationship with your clients? Next marketing strategy is de facto standard profit. With de facto standard profit, you become the industry standard, which really reduces the cost of customer acquisition and really increases the likelihood of installed base profit. It allows you to drive the industry, and it can be done on a smaller scale too, such as you can become the de facto standard in your particular community, in your particular geography, etc. You don't have to become the de facto standard worldwide or nationwide or even on a regional basis in order to leverage the power of de facto standard profit. Here's some examples for you. Microsoft. Microsoft is the de facto standard in two ways: in desktop operating systems and with Microsoft Office. Microsoft Office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Access, Publisher, etc., Outlook has become the de facto standard for desktop operating, office efficiency software. And of course, they are the de facto standard for operating system software too. Now, Linux, as a Unix variation, and Apple with their Apple OS operating systems have, I'm guessing between those, maybe 20% market share. But anytime somebody has over 40% market share, they have a dominant market position. And anytime somebody has a majority, over 50% market share, they are becoming the de facto standard. I think Microsoft right now on desktop platforms probably enjoys 75 or maybe even 80% market share about all the PCs and laptops that have been sold out there. So they have established that de facto standard, and they are making a ton of money because of it. Another one we talked about briefly before was Intuit and QuickBooks. Intuit and QuickBooks has become the de facto standard. I recommend, frankly, that all of my clients use QuickBooks, and I frankly recommend that they use what they call COTS software. COTS, C-O-T-S, stands for Common Off the Shelf, and that is a term used in government proposals and government RFPs, and I recommend that small businesses use that kind of software for a lot of different reasons. First of all, it's typically reasonably economically viable. You can purchase software that's less expensive than QuickBooks, but that doesn't mean that it's less expensive in the long run, because QuickBooks has the advantage of having thousands and thousands, maybe tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of QuickBooks Pro advisors out there and millions of people that are used to using QuickBooks. So if your bookkeeper goes away or for whatever reason is no longer working out for you, you can find a replacement just like that. Not so if you're using software that's not the de facto standard in the industry. If you need support on QuickBooks, I guarantee you can find it just exactly like that. And you don't need to go through, you usually don't need to go through the time and effort of installing some other piece of software at your very small business. Now, after you get to be $5 million in sales, after you get to be $7 or $8 million in sales, maybe even a little bit before that, if you're in a some sort of a very specialty industry, you might look at software that's specifically designed for your industry and evaluate the advantages of that, but not at first. Not for the first 6 months, not for the first couple of years. I don't see, for 99% of businesses out there, there's not much reason to do anything other than go with the de facto standard and leverage that into the profits of your business. And of course, the company that makes the de facto standard gets to leverage the fact that they are the de facto standard in their business. Another profit strategy, another business model design element is premium brand profit. Premium brand profit says we're going to establish ourselves at the very top of our market. It usually takes a huge investment in marketing, but it allows you to charge very high prices and have high margins on the other end, because the cost of sales is generally reduced proportionate to inventory. So there's a careful balance there. We're going to increase the amount that we spend on marketing in order to increase our revenues, in order to reduce our cost of goods sold and increase our gross margins, and therefore enjoy greater profitability. Some examples of that would be Tesla. Tesla is a great example of that. They make an all-electric sports car, and now they're moving in to a lot of different models and designs with their particular, in fact, they just, sold 400,000 people put a down payment on a new model that they're coming out that's a less expensive model than they've ever produced before. They have really leveraged their ability to establish themselves as a premium brand in the marketplace. And because they have successfully done that, they are able to make more money because of that. Another one is specialty profit. Specialty profit, I think, is a little bit misnamed, as are many of these profit models and profit strategies that Mr. Slywotzy put out. I call this the only profit. It means that you carved out a niche so well that no one wants to compete with you at all. It's just not a matter of being the de facto standard. It's about being the only. You capture all of a very small and stable market because of your unique capabilities. And you might have some sort of intellectual property advantage. In other words, a patent or a trade secret that allows you to be the only person in the market that can do something. Some examples of that include pharmaceutical companies. They're the biggest one that I have seen out there, where they have, they have a lock on a particular market. They have a patent on a particular medicine that they've got, and they charge an enormous amount of money because of that to recoup their expenses in creating it and testing it. And by the way, pharmaceutical companies oftentimes spend 20 years developing a new product, spend millions and millions and millions of dollars in designing the formulation, in testing it, and then going through all of the clinical trials and rolling it out. That's one of the reasons why they charge and can charge a lot of money for the products that they put out. I do think it's really interesting how the same product sold in Canada or in Europe costs significantly less than it does in the United States. But pharmaceutical companies become known as the only company where you can go and get a particular medicine, typically for the length of the patent, which is 17 years. The last one we're going to talk about today is community profit. And again, with the asterisk, this is one that I created. You won't find this in the book, The Art of Profitability. And that means that we work to become well known in communities like business clubs, industry groups, trade associations, and service organizations. We become a leader in that community, and thereby we gain access to a large group of prospects, and we cut down on our marketing costs. So some examples of that might be chambers of commerce or Rotary and other service organizations, where we get on the board of directors, where we take a position of responsibility, where we become well known, and we are known as the attorney to go to, the accountant to go to in our chamber of commerce or in our Rotary organization or other service organizations. We're the business consultant in our local chapter of the Association for Corporate Growth, for example. And we leverage our presence in the community to cut down on our marketing dollars by increasing our brand of awareness and our word-of-mouth marketing. In my particular case, for 12 years now, I've been a member of the CEO space community and become very well known in that community as the guy to go to for financial modeling and for business plans and for strategic plans. I successfully managed my presence in that community for many, many years to reduce my marketing costs overall and enjoy the benefits of doing so. Maybe you have a community that you could become known as the go-to person in that particular community for your specialty. Those were the 6 different marketing profit strategies: time profit, installed base profit, DeFacto standard profit, premium brand profit, specialty profit, and community profit. And here's the bottom line. The bottom line is there's a lot of different ways to make money. You have sales strategies, product development strategies, marketing and pricing strategies, leadership strategies. The key is to pick a few strategies and focus on them. And as we talked in the outset of a program, there are, in the context of the Awakened CEO system, in order to do this, it means having the right mindset, the right methods, and establishing the right momentum. From a mindset, I want you to believe that there are a lot of profit opportunities just waiting for you to discover them. Believe that you can learn how to make more money in a professional growth mindset. Know that you can learn how to make more money. And from a business growth mindset, again, believe that you can change your business model and realize even greater profits. From a methods point of view, I want you to study the different profitability models, brainstorm and analyze them, and choose 1 or 2 that are just right for you, and then create the plan to implement them. And the way that we get into momentum is that we follow the plans that we have created. We put our new ideas into action. We make adjustments to our current business model. We become masters at changing our company, and then we do it again, and we do it again, and we do it again. In this presentation, we talked about the author, Adrian Slywotzy. We talked about the book. We talked about his 23 profit models, my 20 additional profit models. We summed it all up to the bottom line. We talked about entrepreneurial profit, experience curve profit, passionate vision profit, planning profit. We talked about time profit, installed base profit, DeFacto standard profit, premium brand profit, specialty profit, and community profit. So here's your homework and your exercise. Think about your business model and understand your current profitability strategies. Get the book and read it. I always encourage people to honor the author of the book by purchasing the book. It's only $10 on Kindle, or $15 or $20 to get a hard copy of it. I certainly just brushed the surface of this book. You can learn a lot more by buying the book and reading it. Add 1 or 2 additional strategies to your business this year. And as always, if you need help or support, get a mentor or coach on your team. There are a few related office hours. 74 was on pricing strategy. 103 was on being a great leader. And 130, just last week, was on the art of profitability. Here in just a second, we're going to open it up Q&A and coaching, where we give you an example, or give you the opportunity, rather, to offer comments and ask questions on the subject matter of the day, and then anything else, and tell me what your biggest takeaways are and what insights you gained from today's presentation. Tell me what you're going to focus on. Here at the Hoyt Management Group, we offer support services where we teach you and train you to do it for yourself. We offer do it with you services for creating product funnels, sales scripts, financial models, business plans, and in some cases, we'll actually do it for you. You can throw over the wall some of the tasks to us and be very well assured that you'll get back a quality result on time and on budget. Our support systems include business growth programs, personal growth programs, and our Awakened CEO system for integrated growth that we introduced a few weeks ago, and now we talk about in every single one of our office hours presentations. Speaking of that, our next office hours presentation will be next Monday, August the 29th. We're going to have a live group coaching call. So be thinking about any questions and any topics that you want us to address. And next week, we're just going to open it up and let you talk about whatever that you want to with everybody that's on the call. Let me know what topics that you'd like for us to address by going to paulsurvey.com and do your homework. And now let's open it up to Q&A and coaching. And a reminder, the best question or comment wins a prize at the end of the call today. Stephanie, whew, do we have any questions?
We do. Let me get the best one while you take a breath. Let's see. I like this one. Can we plan too much? Isn't there some danger in that?
Yeah, there absolutely is danger in that. We call it paralysis by analysis, and there's also the kind of the correlator to that is paralysis by planning too much. And I do see this every once in a while. I do see this in somebody who's an entrepreneur and they want to take that next step in their business. They want to take that next step, but they just can't muster the courage to do it. They feel like I've just got to have all of my ducks in a row. I've got to have all the pieces in place. I have to think this through in a massive amount of detail before they're able to take that first step. And of course, that's one of my jobs as a coach, is to encourage people to take that first step, to remind them that it is that first step, that it is the hardest step to take. Whether you're giving a speech or singing a song, the first words out of your mouth are the toughest ones. And oftentimes when you have a big task in front of you, the toughest step is that first step. So yes, you can plan too much. And by the way, you can also plan too little. So it takes a fair balance in between planning at an appropriate amount before you feel comfortable in getting into action. And by the way, that takes a coach oftentimes. It takes that third-party perspective, to really listen to everybody and ask them the question, do you think we're ready to go? Do you think it's a mistake to pull the trigger now, or do we need to think this thing through a little bit more before we get out on stage, before we get out into the marketplace, before we get into action? It is possible to plan too much, and it's also possible to plan too little. Get a team around you that can help you make the good decision as to whether or not you're ready to jump out and get into action with your company. Hopefully that was helpful. Stephanie, next question.
Okay. How do we translate our passionate vision into actual results? Oh, Paul, we've seen this a lot. I've seen a lot of passionate people not accomplish anything at all. How can you help them?
You know, that's one of the messages of the Awakened CEO system. And that is that having a great mindset, part of having a great mindset is having a very passionate vision, of having what I call an absolute clarity of purpose and passion in purpose and calling and vision of what the business is that you want to create. To translate that into action is that middle step, and that is the methods. And that is your plans, your processes, and your procedures that allow you to take this vision of where you want to be and match that up with where you are today and create that step-by-step plan. I see this all the time, that people feel far more comfortable in getting into action and translating their vision into reality through the methods, through the plans that we help them create. So that is the missing link. By the way, you see all kinds of people talking about, you know, the missing link to the law of attraction. You know, that the law of attraction just doesn't deliver a lot of things. And by the way, for a lot of people, the missing next step is to get into action. For us, we think that there's a step in between having the vision and getting into action, and we call that step the methods. Creating your plans, creating your processes, creating your procedures that allow you to translate that vision into reality, allow you to take your mindset, develop your methods, and then put that into momentum. So to me, that's the secret. That's by the way, my gift. One of my superpowers is this ability to plan and think things through. For me, it has always been a matter of thinking it through and planning before I did almost anything in order to take it to market. Because, you know, as a project manager, you know, can you imagine trying to build, you know, a football stadium without having a project plan? Well, don't even try to imagine it, because it would never happen. Having some level of planning, to me, is the secret sauce that allows people to get into motion, because it helps them overcome their hesitation, overcome their blocks, overcome their obstacles by seeing the path, by seeing it. When you see the path from where you are to where you want to go, I think it makes it a lot easier to take those first steps. So hopefully that was helpful. Stephanie, what else do we have?
Okay, got another one here.
Okay.
Social media is a factor in the success of business today. How much money or percentage of time should we invest into the business plan to maximize success or profitability for social media?
That is a great question. And we have a really good social media consultant on the call here today. So I'm going to answer this question, and then if she's available, I'm going to invite her to answer it as well. So, about 2 or 3 years ago, when social media started really taking off, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I was working on a project where somebody said that they knew of a large company that had invested 18 months and $2 million in creating their social media presence, in really building things out on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn at the time. And I thought, man, that was a tremendous amount. A few years before that, I heard that as a general rule of thumb, it took $5 million in marketing in order to establish a brand awareness, a nationwide brand awareness. And then we started seeing people say that you could cut that in half by investing $2.5 million in social media over a long, long period of time to become extremely well known in social media. So I think it really depends. I think maybe another way of saying that is, what percentage of my marketing budget might I think to spend on social media? And I encourage companies, young companies, to spend 10 to 15% of their annual revenues on marketing. And I would guess half of that, maybe 30% of it, maybe 60% of it, maybe 70% of it is appropriately spent on social media, because it's become the new way of putting our message out to the marketplace. It used to be TV, print, and radio were the way that we put our messages out to the marketplace. And now it's a little bit of TV, not so much print, not so much radio, and a whole bunch of social media. So on the call with us today, we have Marcel Allen, who's one of my favorite social media consultants. Marcel, I took you off of mute. Can you contribute to that response or correct me or enhance it in some way if you're there?
Sure. Hey, Paul.
Hey.
Good question, and it definitely depends. I've seen some very profitable campaigns, and I've seen some campaigns that were a lot of listening going on. And so I think it really depends on how you, depending on what you're selling, how great that sales script is, how great that conversion is. Social media doesn't always fix something depending on what's broken, and so I think you have to tread carefully with it because it doesn't always. A lot of businesses that go there for business try to do the commercials and try to do the advertisements, and it's just about how to sell, whereas the whole point of social media is to be social with the media or with other media outlets or other brands. So like YouTube, for example, it's a social network. It's also a search engine. But if we're just putting commercials out, people don't want to watch that. But like what you're doing here with your office hours, people want to tune in. So I think that's good. You're being social. I don't know if that's a direct answer, but I think it really depends on the brand and what the product is.
And Marcel, what would you say is kind of a minimum social media budget for companies to have, even when they're just getting started and they just have a few precious marketing dollars to spend?
Sure. So we usually say between 3 to 7% is what we suggest.
3 to 7% of revenue spent on social media?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. So if you're planning to have a $100,000 a year business, you should, 7% of $100,000 is $7,000, for the year. So that's roughly, $500, $600 a month on a social media budget. If you're planning on having a $500,000 a year business, 5% of that is $25,000 a year. That's more like a $2,000 a month social media budget. I think that's a
good. And if the videos are done well, they will compound over time, and if they're not done well, they're not gonna benefit for future years. So the goal is to get content that will stay relevant and valuable to your marketplace.
Awesome. Marcel, thanks so much. I appreciate you jumping in and helping us answer that great question from Michael. Thanks so much for that question, Michael. Next question, Stephanie.
Okay, here we go. Sorry, I was talking to myself. Can I use these profit models in combination, and can you give me some examples of that?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think that every company does use these profit models in combination. And I'm glad that you asked that question because that's something that I hadn't talked about in either the Art of Profitability 1, which was last week, or today's call. So a good example of that is that we are first to the marketplace, and then we try to become the de facto standard. So we take advantage of our first mover's advantage, and the way that we take advantage of that is to become known as the only place that you can go, which is the specialty profit, or we become the de facto standard in the industry because we took advantage of that first mover's advantage into the marketplace, or what they call the time profit, I believe it was. So that's a great example of how we leverage one of those strategies to start off with, and then we quickly begin to incorporate into our business model a lot of other business model design elements. We create a little more complex business model, and with that complexity comes greater profitability. So we could establish connector profit by having affiliates and other complementary products that we have. We can establish a lot of the other models once we have built a profitable company. And again, you've heard me say this in many of the presentations. Whenever you're starting a company, the first step is to engage with the marketplace as quickly as possible at every stage of design so that we can learn the lessons that only the marketplace can teach us. And then we have a relentless pursuit of financial stability. Because when we become profitable, when we are able to take the profits out of the current products, services, and experiences that we are providing to our clients, and we can do a lot with that. We can increase our point of sale profits. We can increase our connector profits. We can increase our community profits. We can leverage probably a dozen of these different profit model or business model design elements at once in our company once we have achieved profitability. Until then, I strongly recommend that you have a very simple business model so that you can focus your time and attention on just a few things until you get them to work well for you and work right for you. You jump into continuous process improvement or the experience profit model as quickly as possible. You'll keep the entrepreneurial spirit profit going with your company while you are continuing to expand and continuing over time to build a more complex business model that allows you to have a little more stable company and allows you to have a more profitable company. But the first step is to pick one or two or three of these strategies to start off with and get yourself to profitability as quickly as you can before you encompass like a dozen of them and have a very complex business model. I've got 103. I think that we are out of time for any more additional questions. I do appreciate those people who showed up and asked questions on the call. Even more so, I love for you to email in your questions. I really like those. But for the people who showed up on the call and asked the questions, I really enjoy the opportunity to do that and engage with you live. So I'm going to honor, in today's call, I think I'm going to honor Marcel Allen, who gave a great response to the question that Michael Charters had asked with regards to appropriate social media budget. So Marcel, congratulations on winning whatever is free to you. We will let you know, and we will figure out, I think maybe a free coaching session or even a product might be in order. We'll reach out and touch to you, and thanks again for your contributions and for joining us on today's Office Hours presentation. And thanks to all of you who joined us live, who are listening in over the telephone or watching us on the webinar, or who are listening to this recording. We really love the opportunity to share with you what we have learned and what we know about will make you more successful in business. And until we meet again the next time, Paul Hoyt, Stephanie May are wishing you a most marvelous and prosperous day. Bye-bye.